We're going to talk about the power of journaling. Now, before you shut me off and think I'm just going to go watch something else, I used to never like journaling. I couldn't stand it. It was really annoying to me. It felt like another thing in the way. But once I started to really understand why we journal and why we track things and why we use the method that I'm going to teach you today, specifically for journaling around your goals, then I started to buy in more. So if you've never been someone who's journaled, if you're unsure about if this is something you can do, just start with a little bit every day and hopefully the practice will grow for you. Now, let's talk about journaling and why we do it. We're almost at the end of the Set a Healthy Mindset section of the SOAR methodology. And I'm just really hoping that you are getting like your game face on, you're ready to dive into some goals, and you're feeling equipped and you're feeling ready. But here's what's going to happen. You're going to make your goals. You're going to sit there. You're going to be super excited. You'll make a color-coded chart. You've got this. And then something happens and you get thrown off, or you get stuck in indecision, or you're stuck in inactivity, or you're feeling like overwhelmed and you don't know what to do. Now, one of the keys to getting past that feeling is going to be journaling, because journaling is going to allow you to see patterns and identify triggers so that you know how to move past them. Because if you've ever gotten stuck on one of your goals, say you made a goal to run a half marathon and you always get to around mile 5 and then you notice you fall off the wagon, then we can figure out what's happening. Then we can say, now what? A lot of my clients will ask me, well, what do I do about this? I'm stuck on this. And I'll ask them, well, has this happened to you before? Are there other types of goals where this happens? And they're like, I'm not sure. When we journal, we have this beautiful record of it all. So let's talk about it. The habit of journaling is going to help you identify any triggers you have. So like I said, if you notice that you're trying to drink all this water and you're not hitting your water goal and you're journaling, you're going to realize that it's because you're drinking so much coffee that it's triggering you. Or you're stress eating after you get off the phone with your mom because she's always nagging about something, whatever it is. It's also going to help you notice your behavior patterns, and it's going to help you start to push past those limiting beliefs and the inactivity. Journaling is a daily habit that I'm going to encourage during the time that you're in the club, but you can also use a deeper dive method we're going to talk about as needed. Your journal, it's your thought record, okay? This is where you can track your progress. You can check in on your goals. Now, we're going to talk about checking in on your goals in another module and using Trello. The journal is not so much about the what you're doing, it's the why and the how. Okay, the goal is going to be to track your thoughts and your behaviors and see how they're impacting that action or that lack of action. It's not so much like, dear diary, today I drank some coffee and then I went for a run and I was supposed to declutter, but I didn't. That's very surface level. The journaling that I'm going to talk about for you to do during the time that we're working together is going to be the thoughts, because thoughts that are not recorded, we can't evaluate. So if you wrote down that you were trying to not eat after dinner and then you wound up sitting down and binge eating a whole bunch of chocolate, I don't know, that's a very familiar story for me. I could write that down, but that doesn't help me, right? It doesn't help me to know that I ate the chocolate. What's going to help is what I'm going to show you how to do is identifying the why, the what, the how, the feeling, the thought, because then when we can really tackle the thought, we can see why you're self-sabotaging. We can figure out why you're getting in your own way. We can figure out why you're not achieving your goals. We can't do that if we just know the what. So let's talk daily journaling, and then we're going to talk about the ABCD method that I'm going to teach you. If you have a journal, and I do recommend this is like a paper pencil journal, there's power in writing things out. I do 80% of what I do on Trello because I don't like to write. And because I'm left-handed and I get that smudge line on the side of my hand and it drives me crazy, and I have ugly handwriting. So there's all these things I don't like about physically writing. But there is power in getting your thoughts on paper. So daily, I want you to reflect on your goals. I want you to say, how am I doing? What am I feeling? Am I proud of myself? Do I feel upset about something? What are those feelings? Now, I've put some prompts in the club so you can just download them if you want daily prompts, if you're not sure what to write about. But set a timer and get going. I used to teach high school English, and we would do a 5-minute journal as soon as they walked in. It was my first year teaching in the North Philly, and I thought I was on Freedom Writers. It was kind of a whole mess, but I made them do it, right? I was like, we're going to journal, and this is going to be like the movie, all that. But my kids would sit there and stare at me. And so what I told them to do was the timer will go off, and for 5 minutes, your job is to answer the journal prompt. If you're done before the 5 minutes is up, I want you to just write, I don't know what to write. until the 5 minutes is up. And I would have kids their journal would literally be, I don't know what to write for the entire quarter, the entire year. And then there were kids who would start that way, and then all of a sudden they would get prompted of some thought because they didn't feel like writing that anymore. They were allowed to draw or doodle. So all of those are options for you, but I've given you some prompts. Just start with 2 minutes. Start with 2 minutes a day. Then move to 5. If you like journaling, you could probably write for like 10, 15 minutes. I don't love it. So I do a 2-minute journal at the end of every night to think over feelings and thoughts and reflections from the day. Now, you don't have to do it at night. You could do it in the morning. You could do it whenever you feel like it. Whenever you notice you're triggered by something or falling off your goal, you can do it. And that's where the ABCD method's going to come in. So this is the daily journal. And there's also a worksheet in your portal for the ABCD method that I'm going to give you that you can use. You could print it out. And every time you're really finding yourself stuck in self-sabotage, you're really finding yourself like, I keep trying this goal. I keep doing this goal. Like, why am I not getting this down? And you want to do a goal audit or a goal evaluation. This is how we're going to start, okay? Again, you could use this method daily as well. So the ABCD journaling method starts with A, which is activating the event. So I want you to think about the situation. And again, you can use the worksheet if you want as well, or do it in a notebook. Describe it. What is the behavior? What is the experience? What's happening? What was the trigger? Okay, so let's go through a situation where you're trying to eat healthier and you're at a dinner party. This is the situation we'll walk through for this example. You're at this dinner party, you're trying to eat healthier, and you find yourself stress eating about something, or you don't realize you're stress eating, but all of a sudden you're just like binging on all the desserts and stuff like that, and you're in like a cranky pants mood. All right, so that's how it ends. And you get home and you think to yourself, what just happened? Like, I went into this dinner party with friends. I was so excited. I was going to stay to my goals. I had my plan. I knew what was going to happen. I planned what I was going to eat. I even brought a healthy treat, whatever, right? And you get home and you're like, well, let's figure this out. What is the situation? Well, I went to this dinner party. There were some coworkers there and a coworker's wife, and I was fine until somebody asked me about how something was going at work, and work's not going so great right now. And as soon as that happened, I asked myself, what was the initial thought? Well, as soon as they asked how work was, I felt like super small because I knew that work wasn't going well, and I felt embarrassed about how work was going, and I felt like I didn't want to talk about it, but I didn't know how to get out of the situation. All right, so we activate the event. What is it and where are we at? Then we move to B, which is what are the beliefs around the event? So think about the situation and say, like, what's the negative thinking? What's the negative thoughts that popped into my head? Am I focusing on the negative aspects of it? Am I feeling overly concerned about what other people might think? Or am I making negative assumptions? And we'll talk about that in a second. So back to this example. Okay, so people started asking me at work, work's going bad, and I'm thinking about I might get fired, like everything's really stressful, I'm stressed about all these other things because of it. So my thoughts went immediately negative. And instead of thinking about what was going well at work, all I did was list in my head all the negative things. Was I overly concerned? Yeah, I was worried that if I said how things were truly going, people would judge me. They would think I was a failure. They would think I was a loser. They would be like, who gets fired or who gets stressed at work? And then you might make some negative assumptions. So these are examples of negative assumptions. These are called cognitive distortions that we do in our brain. Man, our brain, it's a tricky thing, this brain. It can mess with us. But remember again, our brain can change. We have the power to change and reprogram our brain. We're not going to get too into the science of it all, but like the synapses in our brain, we can make fire differently because our brain lives in this fear state where it's trying to just protect us. So our brain might create cognitive distortions. So you might go to these things, and some of these we've talked about, all or nothing thinking or overgeneralization. Ask yourself, did my inner critic jump in? And is my inner critic deciding certain things for me? Are they trying to catastrophize the situation? Or am I saying things I should be doing? Labeling things? Am I blaming? Where am I sitting? Ask yourself, what are the cognitive distortions? And these are all in your sheet, so you can kind of circle them each time that are coming up for me. Because again, they're just beliefs, and we can change our beliefs and then we can change our actions. So let's then think, okay, I figured out my negative assumption. So for this one, let's say that I jumped to conclusions thinking that if I told people that work wasn't going well, that they would think I was like a loser and that I shouldn't be stressed at work or whatever it was. And then I started to blame. And then I started to blame my boss because my boss has been putting all this pressure on me, which, it isn't my fault. Okay, so these are the negative assumptions I'm in. So then ask yourself, what is the source of this belief? Why am I thinking it? What's that assumption that's underlying here? And what experiences from my past have caused me to believe it? Like, is there a certain situation or is it deeper fear? So the negative belief is that people are going to think I'm a loser because I might get fired from my job. Okay, where'd that come from? Well, maybe I've had times in the past where I've lost jobs and people have said, like, what's wrong with you? Why can't you keep a job? Or maybe I have times in the past where I was maybe accused of, not accused, but like unfairly, something was put on me unfairly and it caused me to lose a position or a raise or something like that. Or I've had people who maybe have judged me. Maybe growing up, my parents, put all this pressure on me to perform perfectly. And if anything, I didn't get a good grade, it made me feel like it was my fault. Everything felt like it was my fault. So then let's move to C, which is the consequence. If I continue to think this way, what are the short-term consequences? What's going to happen long-term? Like, how is it going to impact my thoughts or behaviors or my relationships or my career or anything else? If I continue to feel like everyone thinks I'm a loser because I can't handle it at work, then I'm not going to show up to my highest potential. I'm going to always think people are judging me. I might not go for a harder position or go after a harder goal or go after a raise that I want to go for or, run that marathon because I'm fearful. This goes back to fixed and growth mindset. I could be fearful that if I try something and fail, people are going to judge me. Okay, so let's move to the D. We've gone through A, activating the event, B, the beliefs, C, the consequence, and then D is the disputing. This is where we're going to say, great, we know this is a thought, we know this is a feeling, we know this is a belief. We know we can change all this. So how do we do it? First step, we challenge our thinking. Is it true? Like, is there evidence to prove this? Does anyone else think this way? And how's it going for them, right? Have I been in these types of situations and what did I learn? So thinking about the situation, like, man, I think that people think I'm a loser and I can't follow through and I'm never going to achieve my goals. Is that true? Well, no, I've had other jobs before. I've had goals that I've hit before, and I know people who've gotten fired from their job and they're fine. Dispute it. Challenge the thinking. This is going to start knocking those table legs that we've talked about in the previous sessions down. Unsticking that emotional superglue, right? Then you come up with alternative thinking. Okay, we've identified our thoughts and how it impacts the situation. And now we've also challenged the validity. We're like, wait a minute. I know that this is not true. This is not an overgeneralization. This is not an all or nothing. Like, no. How could I do this differently? Well, if somebody asks about work, like I could give them an honest opinion without putting it on all the things I'm doing wrong. Because maybe, maybe the career, the business is going under or something like that. It's not always my fault. And maybe, heck, maybe it is. Like maybe you made a mistake at work. And so you're extra sensitive to it because you know that if you hadn't made that mistake, your job wouldn't be at risk. Okay, maybe it is your fault. But maybe you could think about it differently. After you've done that, I want you to come up with a positive belief and an affirmation. So based on these thoughts, I'm a loser, I'll never be successful, I'll never achieve my goals, I'll never hit my dreams. I want you to write down that core belief that's beneath them. The voice that tells you, what the voice is telling you, right, when it reprimands it. And then we're going to rewrite it. So if the statement, the negative thought statement is, you're a loser and you're never going to be successful, we're going to flip that on its head and we're going to write it as an affirmation. I will be successful at my dreams. I can achieve my goals. When I make mistakes, it's not the end of the world. Okay, so you're going to rewrite it and dispute it. And then you're going to come up with an action plan. So what could go differently, right, if this happens again? How can I prepare myself? And what are the strengths I have to pull into? Like, how could I change course? So this is like, hey, I'm going to this dinner party. I know someone's going to ask about work. I made a mistake at work, so things aren't going very great, and I'm feeling really down. So when we go in, I could come up with just thing like, hey, I don't really want to talk about work right now. Or, you know that proactively you want to say that. Or you could say to yourself, like, what would I say if someone asked me about work or that half marathon I was going to run or that business I was going to start that isn't going so great? Well, I'm really working on it. It isn't going so great right now, but I know things are going to turn around. Come up with your proactive statements before the situation. And again, this is one situation. This could literally be you working through any situation in your life that isn't going well. It doesn't have to even involve other people. It can involve just your internal dialogue and your inner critic. This could be a conversation between the two of you. The last piece of that is the improvement. So after reviewing it all and the alternatives, like, how do you feel? Do you feel more confident? Do you feel more optimistic? Do you think things can actually change? I want you to think about how your life will change because you actually understand your thoughts. It wasn't that am a loser. It's not that I'm never going to achieve my goals. It's not that I'm a failure. It's that I made a mistake. Mistakes are a normal part of life, and I'm going to learn from them. Does that make you feel better? And if it doesn't, journal that out. And now that you've done this journaling and you continue to journal and you do it daily and you pull out the ABCD when you're like really in a crunch and you really need that time, well, now you can track the patterns. Now you can say, hey, when does this happen? Are there situations? Are there people? Are there events? Are there certain goals? Is there a certain time of day that I'm like the most frustrated with my kids and I act a certain way? Like whatever it is. Because when you know it, you can evaluate it and you can improve it. If you don't track it, you don't record it, you can't change it. And it's up to you to start thinking that way. The other thing that happens when you journal is that you can separate out the beliefs, the thoughts, and the feelings from like the action and who you truly are. We can change our beliefs, our thoughts, our feelings. We can change them. But our beliefs, thoughts, and feelings, they create the action or the inaction. So if you have all these negative beliefs that ruminate inside your head over and over and over again, you're going to feel like you can't achieve your goal. You're going to feel like it's never going to get better. You're going to be in victim mode or whatever your inner critic does. You're going to be stuck and overwhelmed. Things can and will be different from you. I'm excited to continue this process. In the portal, you're going to see daily journal prompts for if you just want to do regular daily journaling. You're also going to see a sheet with all of ABCD, with all the questions. Everything I have typed out on these slides is actually on a sheet. So you could just print it out when you need to do it, and you can have many copies. So I will see you in the next lesson.